If you weren't a bowler, is there a career that you either had a passion for or would have fallen into?
You know, I'm a small guy, so I'm not going to play basketball.
Really?
Yeah, Spud Webb, he did really good, and he was still taller than I was, and he looked like a little shrimp out there.
I'm sure they have little people league somewhere, don't they?
Maybe, but not
You could have been.
professional little people league. Midget league, maybe, but I don't qualify for that. The business world has always, intrigued me. I was one of those day trader guys when E-Trade and national discount brokers and all that came around. So I studied a lot. I read a lot of the filings for the companies, and I did. I enjoyed that. My wife and I are in the real estate business now. We lease out properties to tenants, and we love that. We love going into a house that we bought that needs everything, and we tear it down ourselves and just start fixing it up. And I'm quite handy in that, I do everything. Sometimes I'll lace a tile. I don't do plumbing or electricity, although I've seen it and I know what's going on. I don't touch that. I pay to have that done. But her and I go in the houses, and I'm fixing baseboards, she's painting, things like that, and that is a really good time for us.
And is there a particular story that you recall that might be one of your funniest bowling stories or traveling stories while bowling?
Most of the funny stories are me watching others go through. Brian, when he was in Tokyo the one time, and he was having a hard morning, a little hungover, and he was wearing these really nice white pants. Brian was a good dresser, and he went to the bathroom, and they didn't have the American toilets, and they messed up, and so now he had to take his pants off and wash them off in the sink. And he comes out of the sink with this big football-sized wet brown spot, and he had to bowl the whole morning that way. And I remember looking at Ferraro. He basically looked at me. He said, "Well, your buddy's not having a very good time this morning." And it busted me up. Things like that. There was the ESPYs once though, off the bowling lanes, but I had met Ephraim Salam at the Can You Bowl event where I was commentating, and at one point I actually rapped a song on the bus going to bowl for practice in front of Layla Ali and her husband manager and Dwayne Wade. There was heavy hitters on this bus, and he was going around everybody going, "What's your favorite song? What's your favorite movie?" And he looked at me one time and he goes, "Well, you probably don't know any of the songs that we know." So I took the mic from him and I rapped a little bit of Ghetto Cowboy for him. He seemed to just fall for me. So he said, "Hey, you're with me from now on." Well, a year later with the ESPYs, I said hi to him, and it was at the end of the show. We had 4 flights of stairs to go up, or the escalator. Of course, the line at the escalator was 30 minutes. So I'm going to go up the stairs, and so as Ephraim grabbed me, wearing tuxedos. He grabbed me and started just running up the stairs, and I mean, we're running past Joe Montana, running past Roy Firestone. I'm just watching all of these A-list athletes that I'm flying in the air, I feel like
like a dream,
like
almost.
the girl on Titanic, It was awesome. But that was a moment I'll never forget.
Do you use Facebook at all?
I do. Yeah. I have a fan page on Facebook and also a personal page.
Okay. Do you have like an iPhone that you can regularly update that while you're on your travels or at a tournament?
Well, I don't necessarily do it that way. I mean, you guys, the younger generation, y'all use these gadgets to, I'm still asking Mike Machuga, "Hey, teach me how to get this off, teach me how to put that on, and what about this app, that app?" I just bought I got my first smart device for Christmas. I had the flip top phone.
With the aerial, you got to pull the aerial out?
No, not the aerial.
Put your head out the window?
Yeah, see, our phones in the day, we had them mounted in our truck. So
the old car phone.
The car phones, right. But I do use the computer just about every day for business, and so I do.
Do you have an idea, roughly, Norm, of how long you want your career to last out on tour? Do you have either a title number that you want to reach, a goal, or is it when Norm knows, Norm will hang the shoes up?
That's the bet. When you say how many titles do you want, I would have already quit, because I've surpassed, luckily and fortunately, any aspiration in bowling that I've ever had. I know in my heart of hearts that I'm not going to catch the great Walter Ray Williams Jr. That's just a little too far-fetched. I mean, the kid, he's still bowling. was a kid. he's a senior citizen now. He's still bowling great. And so if you can't get to number one, then, to have a title plateau, in a way I feel like it's unhealthy. So I think that the latter there, when I cannot win, I'm hanging it up.
You'll know.
I'm not going to go out there and participate. I will and can be a little bit of an ambassador to bowling and try to help build the sport, but I can do that off the lanes if my skills dwindle. But right now I still feel strong. I feel like I'm a competitor and I'm a winnable asset out there. So until that goes away, that's what I do.
Over the 30 years of bowling on tour, have you decided, or have you ever come across some superstitions that you now always abide by? I have a couple myself, but do you have any superstitions?
A long time ago, I thought about superstitions. Do I park in that spot? Do I face this direction? Do I wear red? No. I said the day that dictates your fate and your success, and that's the day you got to stop bowling. Because if I'm going to take the credit, then I'm also going to have to be there to take the fallout. So in that regard, there's only one person on this earth that can dictate my fate, and that's me. And it's not what marking place I choose or whether I'm, wearing red.
See, I need to introduce you to a friend of mine back home. I won't name him, but if you mention his name and you have met this person, it is for sure a split, the following frame. So there is a couple of people.
You would split if I mentioned his name.
Exactly.
Well, tell me his name.
That's why I will never tell anybody who this person is.
It's all about creating an advantage,
Norm, what do you believe, with both the guys on tour and those watching you on TV, is the biggest misconception about you?
I don't know that there is one. I'm so lucky in that I haven't been that reserved. I say what's on my mind. I try to have a good time, and I don't think that there is a misconception. And if there is, I'm not really aware of it. The things that I see about me are, I have a hard time turning on the television and watching myself. In fact, the year that I did commentary, I would sit down with my mom and she'd go, okay, let's watch the bowling show. As soon as I heard my voice, I would walk out of the room or turn it off. That hurt to hear me. So as much as I see myself on television, most of the things that I see are quirky, dumb, mistake-ridden. Everywhere I go, I make mistakes in my mind. And then I get into public and people say, wow, we love you. I can't get that. That's hard for me to say. Why don't you see the same stupidity that I do? But misconceptions, I don't believe there are many. Except maybe some think I'm taller on TV. Until I stand.
I was going to say, the first time I met you, I thought you were taller.
And then I stand next to Westmore.
Then I was looking down at you and I realized I was wrong. You've lived through some pretty cool fashion changes throughout the years. Have you ever styled the mullet yourself?
No.
No?
No. No.
Which month, or which year would you consider, the best fashion year, or let's say decade? What would be the best fashion decade that you've been a part of?
Probably this one, because I couldn't afford clothes back then. I used to shop at Garanimals, man. I matched giraffes, and I matched, back then you matched animals.
Okay.
So I remember listening to Chris Warren say on television one time how excited he was that the back-to-school specials were coming. I could relate. In fact, we couldn't even put wallets in our back pockets because they were so tight. But Chris and I aren't very big. You could put us together and still not get to most.
Norm, in the 30 years you have been on tour, for the majority of that time, there has been a ladies' tour. Unfortunately, it did fold. But over the years, has there been a particular, or maybe a few, female bowlers that you've really enjoyed to watch bowl?
Yeah, I've really enjoyed watching a lot of them. Nikki G, I thought was just awesome back in the day. Lisa Wagner, I mean, she was just dominating. She just, pointed 10 every single week and just beat people to death. I really liked to watch her bowl. There were so many over the years. Leala was awesome, and many others. And you know what? I'm a fan of bowling, so I like to watch them all. I like to watch all the men. I like to find the things that they can do that separate them from all the other competitors, at least that week.
Well, let's talk about that just slightly in the form of, stylistically speaking. Of course, from the late 70s, early 80s, you have seen a lot of different styles. You saw obviously Marshall Holman and Mark Roth dominate bowling with the power style, and we keep on going further on. We developed this traditional / modern cranker, and then now you have the two-handed player.
Whoa.
What are your opinions on all these styles that have come into bowling?
Well, I'll be honest with you. Back in the day, one of the things that I really couldn't get a grip on was the power game. I wanted one, and I just felt like I couldn't do it. And I thank Chris Warren for this. He was my size, and he could hook the ball around everyone. So I wasn't allowed to use an excuse back then. So what I did is I embarked on a task to find out how to get victories hooking the ball. And one day I was watching Mike Miller when, Mike was a straight ball player back then, and he converted to the two finger release with no thumb. I watched it in Albuquerque. We both lived in Albuquerque at the time. And when I saw my problem, I was eating, and Gary Skidmore was next to me, and we're having breakfast, and breakfast just fell out of my mouth. And I told him I figured it out, and I'm going to go and I'm going to win tournaments hooking the ball. And he laughed, because he was a straight player as well. The very next year, he and I were bowling for the national championship, him with two fingers and me hooking the ball. And that was wonderful there. Inside of 6 months, we were bowling for the national championship.
Wow.
And so, thank you to Chris, number one. But then that gave me a chance against Mark and Marshall. But now we have a whole new dynamic to the power game. All of the guys that I just mentioned are tweeners now in comparison to you and Oscu and, hey, Sean Rash, some of the guys that put their hand in the ball. They can just really generate some revs. I watch y'all bowl, and I know that I'm having the same problem now that I had back then. I kind of flipped those guys back then, and now I'm trying to figure out a way to flip y'all and use the one hand doing it. And it's kind of like one's tied behind my back,
Thank you very much for your time. It's been awesome. I've really enjoyed finding out a little bit more about who Norm Duke is. And if you had to wrap it up, describe yourself in 3 words.
I'm fun. I'm a tremendous competitor, and I really like to enjoy my life. So, I would just say that easy going.
Okay.
Easy going.
That was 5 words, but that'll do. That's okay.
I'm also in awe of you guys, and I really appreciate y'all.
I appreciate it too.
Coming out here and teaching us how to really do the power.
Thanks for your time.